Happy Thanksgiving Eve, everybody. Happy Thursday. Today is November 24th. It is Thanksgiving um, holiday for everybody across America, and some people think Canadians celebrate Thanksgiving. I'm not sure, but you guys know what day it is. And one of my favorite holidays of the year. Pretty much combined it with sports, and I get to work on my store today and just lean back and watch football. And that's about it. It's just a very relaxed time of the year before we hit the chaos that does become Black Friday, Christmas, and everything else. For those of you small retailers out there, Saturday is Small Business Saturday. That's basically something that where if you have a small business in your midst, please support them, no matter where you are in America. There's nothing against having the big box um, stores. There's nothing against having going to Walmart's, going to Target's, going to Ross, and going to all these things. But you know what? And all those people who are employed there appreciate your patronage. But it's even more critical for the mom and pops and guys. It's like myself, I'll be biased, but there's a lot of my compatriots, there's a lot of my comrades in arms that have struggled through the pandemic and are finally coming out of the other side. So for all of us guys, all of those guys, it's a really critical holiday for us. We have inflation going on, we have profits margins shrinking, but the reason why they call it Black Friday is because most companies they operate they hover right around the black and the red borderline all year, where they make their profits and everything else. But the Christmas time period is where you pull yourself into the black for the final stretch of the year with Christmas, after Christmas sales, things like that. So your craft stores, your Etsy's, your comic book stores, your toy stores, your non-chain ones or smaller chain ones, please, if you have the opportunity, whether it be online or whether it be in person, support those guys. Listen, the other big box stores, they're going to be just fine, but these other guys, this season could mean whether, the difference between staying open or not. So let's hope those guys have a really nice holiday. And I will, as one of them, I hope we all have it good for this Thanksgiving. Hello, Aaron Pritchard. Yes, happy Thanksgiving to all your men. Where are you, Aaron, if you don't mind me asking? I know you probably told me, but I forgot. Jar Jar, how you doing? Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. William, on a serious note, how did your son create the universe? Serious note. Okay, thank you. I'm glad you got a laugh out of that. All right, so another thing that is every Thanksgiving now and then, the date falls on November 24th, and one of the things that I personally will always remember November 24th was the day that, in my opinion, the greatest vocalist to ever sing a song, Freddie Mercury, passed away from AIDS. This was 31 years ago today that we lost Freddie Mercury. I will never, ever forget November of 1991. Not only did Freddie Mercury pass away from AIDS basically 24 hours after going public that he had it, even though a lot of people closer to his circle knew, but just 3 weeks earlier, Magic Johnson came out and announced he had HIV and that he would have to retire from Lakers. Now, keep in mind, when we think of HIV and we think of AIDS in the 2020s and even the last 10 or 15 years, it wasn't what AIDS was in 1991. And AIDS in the mid 80s to the mid 90s, if you got HIV, it was a death sentence. You were a dead man walking. We did not have the medicine that we have now. We did not have the technology that we have now. We did not have the dedicated funds that we have now. When you got AIDS, it was pretty much you were written off and it was over. Thanks to nearly 2 decades of pioneering in medicine and innovation that we made, AIDS went from a certain death sentence to something that you can live with. If you look up, you can just Google what is the life expectancy of an AIDS patient, and it says indefinite now because it is no longer, it is no longer a certain death when you get it. Obviously, it's something that you do not want to ever contract, but if you contract it, it's not the end. They've gotten the AIDS medicine to the point where you live healthy, normal lives. I know a guy who's been dealing with HIV since 1991. and because of the medicines and because of the things that were not available right at the time, or really available at the time when Freddie Mercury contracted it, our Eazy-E, guys like that, people who were cut down. Freddie Mercury was only 45 years old when he passed away. Eazy-E passed away. He was 35 years old. 3 weeks after he found out he had it, he was gone. Rock Hudson, Ryan, all these guys. I mean, and my hope is for cancer that we get to the point where, obviously, cancer is not something you want to come down with, obviously, but to get it to the point where, you know, if you find it at stage 4, it's not over for you. You can live healthy, long, 20, 30, 40 years extra on your life without it. But right now, cancer, it gets you, and it gets you quick. And that's what age used to be. So Freddie Mercury, there has never, ever been a voice like his, before, during, or since. I grew up, very first time I heard Freddie Mercury was the Flash Gordon theme song. I opened up Flash Gordon because I saw Flash Gordon in 1980 in the movies. And then it just goes on from there. Metropolis, Love Kills, Highlander. I mean, he literally, you know, Queen literally did the soundtrack for Highlander. It's actually a Kind of Magic is what it's called, but it's actually it literally acts as a de facto soundtrack to Highlander, one of the great soundtracks of all time. Other than, I mean, DeBarge and Kenny Loggins, no other groups like that had multiple soundtracks like that during the 80s, and he was iconic. I mean, even people who don't know who Queen or Freddie Mercury is, they really know. If you've ever been to a sporting event, you've heard "We Will Rock You," or if you've ever watched any of your teams win a league championship, when they say "We are the champions," that's Queen. Another one bites the dust. You'll hear that drop played a lot of times when somebody gets thrown out of somewhere. That's Queen. I mean, it's all we hear is radio. I mean, there's so many things that Queen, that voice was interwoven within just a global population. Live Aid, 1986, probably one of the great live performances of all time. This, you know, to me, like I said, because I was growing up with him, and it overlaps because we lost his great voice at a time with this crisis. The AIDS crisis was the crisis of the land at that time. And like I said, to find out, because there was no internet back then, there was no emails back then, there wasn't TMZ, and if, you know, a lot of times stars kept it private and it didn't get leaked out. So us fans, you know, didn't really hear about it until literally 24 hours. I remember the 23rd of November was when we found out he had it, and then literally I came home the next day. I was a junior in high school, and I was working at the commissary. It was Sunday, January, Sunday, November 21st, and I've never, ever forgot that. And every year, November 20th, there's two things I but I commemorate. There's two things I do that every year, and that's October 3rd, 1993, and that's when Randy Shugart and Gary Gordon from Black Hawk Down, Rope Down, and Save Michael Durant. To me, those guys are heroes. And every October 3rd, I always, on my timelines and stuff, I always make sure that those Medal of Honor recipients are commemorated. And then the death of Freddie Mercury. Because, like I said, you know, and then as a Laker fan, I mean, I'm born in Berlin, but I'm raised in L.A., Magic Johnson was literally a godlike figure, and the entire city had a shroud over it. And then here he is, 32 years later, looking great, living fine because of these modern technologies. So, rest in peace, Freddie Mercury. But like I said, today is one of those days I just never forget. All right, so we're gonna stop that and get on just to your guys', you know, just whatever's going on. All right. It's a miracle Magic Johnson never got AIDS. No, he never. I mean, technically, I guess it's semantics because a lot of AIDS patients that are living with it today and doing just fine say that HIV is AIDS as far as it's not what Magic Johnson never got. And I understand what you're saying because I even had this semantics thing messed up in my head. Is he never got ART? He never got what was an AIDS-related complex, and that's what kills you. That's when HIV and AIDS elevate themselves to a point where your immune system can no longer fight it, and it rapidly starts shutting things down for you and leaving you open illness. However, with the medicines they have now, most people, that from what I understand, do not ever reach that age-related complex because of the medicines and the treatments keep it to the point where it's not even detectable. So yeah, Magic Johnson was also fortunate that he had access to the best medical care. I mean, you're talking about a multi-millionaire who had access to, you know, dietitians, he had nutritionists, he had the best doctors that you could, you know, that were working on it. I mean, the people who ended up revolutionizing, like people like Dr. Kenneth Ho, you know, even Fauci to a certain point. These are guys that were developing these treatments, and he had access directly to these guys. Now the other, you know, the guy on the street didn't have that access. But you know, thank goodness, you know. I mean, I don't hate Magic Johnson for having access to that, but that was probably the difference of, and he was in shape. The difference of him being around these days, and a lot of other people that didn't. The AIDS epidemic was, like I said, it was huge. It was huge, and you know, I'm grateful for, you know, the people who are not millennials and not Generation X, because if you came after that, you did not live through the AIDS crisis we do. A millennial was born in 1980, and he definitely lived through the AIDS crisis. They may not have been as old as a Generation Xers, but you knew what it was. You knew what it was, and you knew it killed enough people. But Generation X is a generation that really, because we saw at the beginning of it, the middle of it, and we were here now, which is where it's more of an endemic now than a pandemic. It's out there. A lot of people still have it, but it's under control to the point where it's treatable now. So there you go. So what else is going on today? I saw a little rock video. I see a lot of people kind of reading a lot into what the rock said. Let me go ahead and pull that up. I probably should have pulled that up before. Let's see. He was basically talking from the car and talking about the hierarchy of power, and you know, going over some of the numbers of Black Adam. Let's see. Ooh, shit, excuse me. Sorry. Let's see. There we go. Rock. Yeah, here we go. So let me. All right, so this is about a 6-minute video, so we're gonna watch this real quick and just I got some opinions about it, or I think a lot of people are kind of creating some conspiracy theories, but I think it's more of him just, you know, getting low on the way. So here we go.
Also known as Wednesday's getting its ass kicked and Thursday is next in line. That's the plan anyway, until we get beat up a little bit. A quick check-in. I'm swooping in to say thank you. Great news to report on the Black Adam front. The Black Adam train continues to roll along. Black Adam, you guys have made Black Adam #1 again, now on digital. Black Adam is the #1 movie on iTunes. We released Black Adam yesterday. We thought it was a strategic release to go on all digital platforms as we're still out in the theaters. As we go into the Thanksgiving holidays and, of course, the Christmas holidays, Hanukkah holidays, so you guys can enjoy Black Adam still in theaters and certainly enjoy The Man in Black at home. So thank you for making Black Adam #1 again on iTunes with a bullet, by the way. So thank you, guys. The hierarchy of power in the DC universe has changed. As you guys have heard me say that, at box office here domestically, we're doing really good, really strong numbers. Internationally, we got a lot of room for growth. And of course, you want to see the international box office numbers be higher, be stronger. Of course you do, because you're never satisfied. However, we got a lot of great growth. We established Black Adam around the world, you know, and something to think about contextually when it comes to Black Adam. And when you look at our numbers, as I think we'll probably land somewhere around, I don't know, maybe 375 million worldwide. maybe a little bit more. We might kiss $400 million. We'll see. We still have Japan to open up, and we'll play through the holidays. So we'll see. But in any event, at the end of the day, our business, when it comes to like business acumen, boring business acumen stuff, our margins don't live and die by box office numbers. It has very long tentacles and tail effects when it comes to how we will do just in terms of our numbers. But the bottom line is this: when I talk about, hold on one second, I'm just coming into work. My good morning, hello, amen. Thank you very much. When I talk about the hierarchy of power in the DC universe, has changed from a few ways. Number one, we established Black Adam around the world as the most powerful and dominant, unstoppable force in the DC universe. That is a fact. And we established the Justice Society around the world too. And keep in mind, no one, if you were not a hardcore comic book fan, no one heard of Black Adam or the Justice Society. The hardcore comic book fans, we got the love, we got your loyalty, and I appreciate that to the bone. But the rest of the world had no idea who Black Adam was. So we're establishing the brand. And something else that we're establishing is, I felt like two things. If we're going to establish Black Adam as the most powerful, unstoppable force in the DC universe, we have to bring back the most powerful, unstoppable force of all time in any universe. And you guys know who I'm talking about. Of course, that is Superman, and that's Henry Cavill. And at the end of the day, the studio was not bringing Henry Cavill back. Inexplicably and inexcusably. But we weren't going to take no for an answer. Myself, my $7 co-founder and chairwoman, Danny Garcia, Hiram Garcia, our $7 president. This has been years in the making regarding bringing Henry Cavill back, and years of strategic conversations, and we were not going to take no for an answer. And and also something else to think about is, for us, there was no way, there's no viable, logical way that you can attempt to build out the DC universe without the most powerful force and the greatest superhero of all time sitting on the hot sidelines. It's impossible to do. You can Venn diagram business-wise this whole thing 90 different times, but it all comes back to, where's Superman? You have to have Superman in the mix. So that's why we fought hard to bring Superman back, Henry Cavill. And there was no other Superman, by the way, to bring back. Henry Cavill is our generation's Superman, and in my opinion, the greatest Superman. And I mean that respectfully to the other actors, especially Christopher Reeve, but the greatest Superman of all time. So again, bringing Henry back, now we build out the DC universe properly, strategically, smartly. Again, the hierarchy of power in the DC universe has changed. And of course, now we have new leadership at DC and at Warner Brothers. Again, hierarchy of power in the DC universe has changed. So it's a new era in the DC universe. Thank you guys so much for the Black Adam love. You made Black Adam #1 on iTunes. Enjoy Black Adam throughout the holidays, Thanksgiving, holidays. Enjoy it in the theaters, and certainly now you can enjoy it at home. Thank you for making us #1. And thank you so much. Black Adam has been such an incredible journey, 15 years in the making. Now we will take our time. Now we will build out the Black Adam brand, and we'll build out the JSA. Dr. Fate, Cyclone, Hawkman, Atom Smasher. And keep in mind, for those of you who don't know, and all you comic book fans, you guys know this, there are so many cool, badass superheroes and supervillains in the Bible, in the pantheon of the DC universe. They're just right there. So we're going to dig into all that. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. I got to get my ass to work.
All right. So let me address some things in the chat here. I hear blasphemy in chat. Hey, listen, Darcipio. Listen, I love Ronnie James Dio. To me, he was Black Sabbath for me. as a kid, and on his own, he was a legend himself. I like Rob Halford, Elvis, Robert Plant. This is all going to be subjective. There is no wrong answer here, as I always say. But for these years, none of these guys are at the level that Freddie Mercury was. The strongest argument for anybody on this list, for me, this, like I said, it's going to be different from everybody, would be Dio. I mean, Heaven and Hell is, holy diver. I mean, you see Dio, of all the people on this list, in my opinion, this is my opinion, how it could come close to that universal range that Freddie Mercury had, where it could be applied to just about any tempo of music. But Freddie Mercury, in my opinion, and I'm biased, was in a class all his own. Everyone else was on a different level. Not really down at the bottom, but they're just on a different type of level for me. But yeah, I mean, this is not a bad list to put together, though. But I just think Freddie was better than all those guys. You know what? So, I mean, but you know what? Tonight I might listen to Children of the Sea and get a little bit, closer. But for right now, for these years, Freddie Mercury is on this level, and then there's another level for everybody else. That's just me, but you're not wrong for thinking what you think. Real quick. Okay, so yeah, that was that one. I wonder what's inevitable. Yes, Dio, dude. I gotta watch that on Showtime. There's a documentary about Dio that I'm probably gonna spend tomorrow or this afternoon watching. All right, so going back to so your question kind of leads into what we were watching. William, is Black Adam going to break even? Most likely, yeah. You figure, and a lot of people are throwing around a bunch of goofy numbers that really probably aren't true. It needs to make 600 million and 700 million to break even. That's not true. The guesstimated budget for Black Adam is anywhere from between 167 and 200 million. Now, when people say the advertisement budget for Black Adam was 100 million, maybe. We were part of the advertising campaign, and we were bought on late. I mean, I'm talking about a week before late. A lot of the money they didn't really do a lot of advertising. There was not a lot of push for the first 6 or 7 months. You kept seeing the trailer, but you didn't really see that type of push that you see with, this what's supposed to be this level of movie. We got bought on literally at the end, tail end. And I believe that, the way it rolled out, in my opinion, that they shifted money from other projects that they either canceled or were delayed. So they may have gotten 100 million worth in advertisement, but I don't know if they actually shelled out 100 million. But even if you were at that, okay, so now we're at so say it costs 300 million total, which I don't think. I think that total's way off. It's already at 360 something. So you're 50 million. You're not far over, but you're over. But what you also have to realize is there are like he said there, the final judgment on any movie is not necessarily its box office. Even though you want to make as much money as you possibly can on the box office, there are a lot of ways. Like right now, it'll probably do well on demand, but where it's probably going to make a decent amount of money is where a lot of DC movies, whether regardless of what your opinion may be about them, a lot of DC movies do well on physical media. I mean, everybody tells me how much BBS sucks, but when any version of BBS that comes out in the Walmart or Target where I'm at is gone. All right. Everybody told me that, Zack Snyder's Justice League, nobody cared about that. Both versions that I've seen come out sold out. One of them sold out the first day. So, granted, you're curbing your production of these things to what you think you can sell, but you have to do the math across America. If they're selling out, they're doing well enough. So you make your money back there. Blade Runner 2049 didn't make much of its money back in the theaters. It actually came in at a loss, but they sold 22 million worth on the initial Blu-ray sales, and then they did even better on physical or non-physical media sales. So there's a lot of stuff that's out there regarding that. But you also have to take into a fact that what the goals were for everybody involved. Now, had this been what you saw with The Rock there, here's one of the major problems that I had is The Rock had to do all the heavy lifting to promote Black Adam. It was The Rock everywhere. That can't happen. If you're Warner Brothers and you literally have a level in your high-rise building filled with people making a lot of money to promote these films. And I don't think that happened until later on in the game. I thought it was too late in the game. Another thing that happens is as much as this comic book geek love characters like Black Adam and Shazam, nobody knows who the hell they are. All right. And he faced the same problem Shazam had. I'll keep bringing this up. I'll kick it a dead horse. I drug 100 some odd people to see, and we did a huge promotion for Shazam. Most of the people in that audience didn't know who he was. Those people came up to me, complimenting me on my Flash t-shirt. All right. And people say, well, it's The Rock. The Rock should have been able to do this. The Rock should have been able to push the needle. No. And here's another thing. And a lot of these guys, I don't know if any of these guys that are on YouTube have ever hosted a screening or promoted an event and then talked to the people afterwards and then kept in touch with them over time and did not just surveys of the people that we're bringing to the movies, but when we do these promotions, some of you have gotten stuff from us from that don't even live in the areas I'm doing the screening, and we keep in touch with you in that regard. And the general consensus is like most people had a favorable opinion of The Rock, but it wasn't going to be enough, for them to make the investment of what could be up to $100 or over $100 to bring a family out to see it. And my secondary question was, would anybody have done that for you? And not many people could come up with the names that they could. And, somebody said, well, Tom Cruise could have, but okay, just Tom Cruise or Tom Cruise backed by a franchise like Mission Impossible or an iconic, movie of all time, but Top Gun. A lot of it, people, and Quentin Tarantino said it the other day, when people come to go see these superhero movies, and I'm paraphrasing, they go to see the superhero. They're not going to see the stars anymore. They're going to see the superhero. They're going to be part of that IP. So The Rock being The Rock, and trust me, I've been watching The Rock since he was a wrestler, down at the low levels. That's just not enough anymore. You need, especially for an IP nobody knows. It's different if it's a universal IP. There's been a lot of people who, if you don't see Twilight and don't care about any of the other stuff that Robert Pattinson ever did, Robert Pattinson is not going to mean much to you. But where Batman made its 780 is Batman. They came to see Batman. They didn't come to see Robert Pattinson. They came to see Batman. And that is something that Shazam and Black Adam lack. And a universally known IP that people are going to make that investment. As much as DC had screwed around with Batman and Superman over the 5 years, you can't erase the 80 years of credibility that those characters have. For the most part, they have been a safe bet. But if I am sitting you in a movie and I have to spend as much time explaining to you who the hell what I just drug you in to see is, then you're probably going to have an issue. But ideally, if there had been better management involved, sorry, The Rock, Dwayne, if you're watching, your movie wouldn't have been greenlit without a Superman or a Batman movie in range of it. There's no way in hell I would have ever greenlit either Shazam or Black Adam, or even been thinking about, a Blue Beetle or anything else, because what you're doing is a disservice to those movies. All right. When you bring out the Z characters, and I've said this over and over again, without an environment of the alpha characters, you're doing a disservice to those smaller characters that nobody knows who the hell they are. All right. Because The expectations are there, and if you can't meet those expectations, move on to a different company. And these guys did, but you needed to have, and that's why it was so important to have Superman in that post credit scene. And people say, well, that didn't move the needle, that didn't do this, that didn't do that. You know what? Like I said, DC Films is a patient that is going to be in triage for a while, and there's no one thing right now that's going to really heal the patient other than time and commitment to major IPs and stuff like that. So having Superman in for a total of less than a minute, what probably wasn't going to be much, especially when you have to, if you're somebody who would ever give these movies a chance, you're looking at the last 5 to 7 years and wondering, I don't trust you guys. So there was a lot of things that were going up against Black Adam. One, he's black. It's Black Adam. Two, the damage to DC's brand, it was probably a little bit more severe than people want to admit or realize. And it's a matter of trust. Marvel can put out a mediocre movie and still get the benefit of the doubt of the next 2 or 3 times around. You know what? Somebody could, critics could be, laughing at, Thor: Love and Thunder, thinking it's a joke, but that's not going to hurt Wakanda Forever because they have a pattern that gives them the benefit of the doubt. What did we have from DC leading up to Black Adam? What major, other than the Batman, which, like I said, that wasn't a $1 billion movie, other than the Batman, what main prime character did we have that got the general audience ready to accept Black Adam? We didn't have anything. So a lot of what he's saying is right, and it just is what it is. And when he says a hierarchy of power, a lot of people are saying that, he might be upset because I guess, a lot of the stories that were going around that Hiram Garcia was in line for that job and he didn't get it. You could make a circumstantial case for any conspiracy you want, and you would have enough evidence there to make it probable. But it's 50% because the other 50% is the huge holes and things that we don't know. As fans, it's not up to us what succeeds or what the parameters of success are. We're not in these meetings. The fact that he hasn't congratulated James Gunn or Peter Safran in public, I guess you could read that into he may have a bug in his ass. But there's also, these things called cell phones and emails that we'll never see, that we don't know the conversations that they're having. And I promised myself after the whole Snyder thing, trying to read into things. And I know it's fun. It's speculative. We want to do it. It is fun until it's not. So right now it's fun, to speculate and do the conspiracy theories, like the guy in the meme who's got all these things on the whiteboard behind him, until it's not, until we start using that to shape the narrative. And that's where I'm not ready to go right now. The Rock is always going to be the person that kept banging on the door to get Cavill in. And if I do think Cavill has a future, and he will be part of the DC Bible, not from anything I've heard, but just it just doesn't make any sense for me to be otherwise. And I've seen nothing to refute that, but that's just my opinion. If that's the case, he brought in the most important piece on the chessboard that nobody else was getting. So, like I said, it's Black Adam. I in a perfect world, those movies aren't released. I mean, Shazam, we're gonna be having the same conversation about Shazam in March, and it says Shazam is a movie I'm gonna get behind 100%. I love the first Shazam, but it's Shazam. All right, if you're gonna put a guy in a cape with a symbol on his chest, the general public has expectations. It better be Superman. If you want to make the type of money these days, if you want to get into that 700 and 800 million thing, you have to give the general audience somebody that they know. Money's tough, man. Money's tough. Just tomorrow, all the Thanksgiving fixings are up right now as far as cost goes. Going to the movies is expensive, and it's a risk. And you're asking the general public to take a risk on a damaged brand and some characters that the majority of the general public don't even know who they are. So, and the marketing, like I said, the front-loaded marketing, I didn't think was that well. I don't think, and a lot of it is because they had nothing to connect Black Adam to. So there's a lot of reasons why Black Adam is at 375. But to be honest with you, I don't think the new company is as reactionary. I hear a lot of guys, saying that this Black Adam's box office will mean this, it'll mean that. These guys are laying out plans. And by the way, Peter Safran and James Gunn, just because it was announced to us that they were the heads of DC, they didn't just get a call 5 minutes before they went live with that. That's been in the works probably for quite some time. And everybody who's talking right now, The Rock, anybody else, whether it be James Gunn, they've known about this for quite some time. So they're not just, there's no shock. They're not just waking up and rolling over in bed, getting a tweet saying, oh, some other guy's been named DC Films head, you're not. I don't think that's how things are, things work. I think we think that when we hear it, that's when they hear it, but no. Anything that you're probably getting, it's like seeing light in space. It's already happened. And we, as the bottom feeders, we're at the bottom of this whole chain, are getting it once it hits the bottom of the cage. They're getting it probably months in advance. All right, so that's just to answer that question. But I thought, logic always wins. I thought what The Rock said, because The Rock didn't have to come out and say anything. He could, if he was mad, he could just pout and go away. But he's not. I mean, his production company, if there is eventually a Cavill contract and continuation, if there's not already one that we know about, that's his company. His agent is one of the founders of $7 Theaters. So it's not like they will be left out in the cold in anything going forward. And he just doesn't seem petty enough to me to have that be something that's an issue. All right, dude, Scipio. All I gotta tell you about that, Scipio. All I gotta tell you about that is, like I've said before, when it comes to Ezra Miller, it comes out and it makes a lot of money, and it is perceived by the company that's laying down the money that he is the reason why it made money. Everything is up in the air. Nobody, I don't care how many followers that they have, is stronger than the money. All right. Nobody. No scooper, no established trade, no established YouTuber with 300,000 or 400,000. Nobody is powerful to stop the consequences of cash. All right. These people are in business to make cash, not to give people a warm fuzzy that they've punished Ezra Miller. Nobody gives a fuck about that. All right. Most of the people that will see this movie when it comes out in June won't even know about this, and the ones who know about it are not going to care enough to not engage with this movie unless he does something. Like I said, I've always said, if he goes full on OJ riding in the white Bronco going down the highway after he's killed somebody, different story altogether. But if it stays status quo as it is now, going what are we in? So 7 months from now, nobody's gonna care. And if the movie makes money, it's about making money. It is about making money. That's what this all is about making a case to your shareholders to keep this going. So we could never see him again as a Flash, but how many times have we said something wasn't going to happen and the cash rolled in? Never going to get a Joker sequel. Got a Joker sequel, made $1 billion. All right. There's a lot of situations that people said were not going to happen till that that cash register started ringing. So could happen. It's 50-50, man. That's my opinion. But once again, now, like I said, it all depends on what the money is. JLA, I would love to see that. That was an annual thing that we used to have every year up until Crisis. How you doing, Mr. Wayne? Thank you for spending Thanksgiving Eve. Actually, not Thanksgiving Eve anymore. It's actually Thanksgiving. So 12:05. I don't even know why I put Thanksgiving Eve. Because I'll probably stream later on tonight too. So I didn't want to get the two turkeys confused. Yeah, the area of incompetence and miscommunication is over with. I mean, what James Gunn is doing now, I love it. I absolutely love what he's doing. Well, I always like to hear what he has to say. Who knows? But he's communicating with us. He's filling in the gaps. I've always said, before we even knew James Gunn was going to be the head of DC Films, people have established careers on social media based on bullshit, based on speculation, and like I said, I'm not talking about just having a conversation like we have. I'm talking about the literally misrepresentation of intent. lying and trades have pretty much lied. Rolling Stone, 2 hit jobs on Zack Snyder, and a lot of these established trades that have been around for decades, but have to compete with the modern social media way of getting news, are jumping the gun and saying stupid stuff. And I've always said that DC, of all the companies that were out there, needed somebody to refute this. DC needed the horse's mouth to come out and say, shut the fuck up. All right. From top to bottom, from trade all the way down to the average person on the street. Not in those exact words, but it was an intent, for all intents purposes. All right. Yeah, because where there are gaps in info, people will fill those gaps with bullshit. And that's what's happened with DC the last 7 or 8 years. And it's damaged them. It's damaged their momentum. It's damaged their company. And then not only that, if you have bad management that listens to the response from some of this and acts on that, it begins to damage your product. So what James Gunn is doing is I'm so happy. I'm so happy because he has the ability to shape the perception of DC films in a way that they were too fucking lazy to do the last 7, 8, 9 years. You know what? If somebody gets a wave of something that's not 100% true, he can get. If it gets high enough, he can get up there and say, "No, that's not true." And I'm waiting for him to come out and say, like some of these varieties, raps, and Hollywood Reporters, everybody, thinks they are the gospel, and those are respected trades, but they're not always right. And when they're wrong, you never see a retraction. You never say, "Oh wow, let's revisit that." No. So his voice above all, his voice above any YouTuber, his voice above any trade, his voice above anybody out there spreading conjecture. It's a difference between having a fun conversation about our make-believe characters, but it's a complete different planet when it's that information that shapes the perception of the company. Because if he can't control that perception of the company, he's done before he and Peter Stafford ever get going. If he cannot steer the perception of DC films in the direction that he wants it to go and look and sound like, then he would be done before he even gets the keys to the car. So I love what he's doing right now. Like I said, he's not always going to tell us what we want to hear. And to be honest with you, he may move DC films in a direction that I'm not used to, or that, is alien to me, given what, the content I prefer. But I've opened my mind to that. I cannot hold the new regime hostage and accountable for what the boneheaded decisions that the previous guy did. There's things I want. Storylines, if you watch me enough, that I want to have concluded and have resolved. But in all fairness, I cannot put those chains around the ankles and the necks of a new regime and tell them to drag that way with them. It would be hypocritical for me to say, I want new things. I want a change in direction. And then, oh, by the way, I only want it if you give me exactly what I want or close to what I want. I can spit on the previous guys. I can't because they're gone. All right. So that problem has already solved itself. And part of the healing process and going forward is, unfortunately, sometimes letting these new guys, do what they want to do. And be open-minded. They might give us something that, just like I said, blows our socks off. Had Hamada and all these other guys, the replacement crew, who knocked the rails off of what we had going before, had they had come in with something that's like, holy shit, where was this my entire life? If they'd have came in with their Godfather version of what we were going to watch going forward, a lot of the people, who would have, didn't want to let up off the Steiner thing would have been drowned out. They would have been drowned out. We would have been in the minority. But you left us with nothing, and you didn't have that general audience anymore because you didn't give them anything. All you had was us. All you had was us hanging on to the remains of what was supposed to be a sinking ship. So, but now James Gunn has opportunity to fill whatever void that we've had with something. And if it's good, I'm okay. I'm okay. I hope I live long enough to see the resolution to all the things that were held dangling. But at the same time, I have this in front of me now. I'm going to embrace what they have to put forward. So All right, Holy Diver just got certified double platinum recently. Heaven and Hell is a legendary album. Also, you can't forget about the Rainbow Rising from 1976 with Dio and Richie Blackmore. Oh no, I can't. No, I will never forget any of that stuff. I'm just saying that, and I listen. This is a hard conversation to have because I can't. These are two greats that you're talking about. It's just I think one is greater. We're talking about Ronnie James Dio, who is in that stratosphere, but he's just Freddie Mercury's the GOAT for me. I mean, but it's opinion. It's opinion. I mean, each song, each lyric, and each way it's sung and the voice is going to hit every listener different than certain songs from Queen are not going to mean as much to you, or they mean the world to me. I think Innuendo, the last album that they did, is one of the best things that they ever did. And the fact that he was a full-blown age, knew he was on limited time, and still gave that album his all. And it attaches you when you listen to it. You're like, you're listening to this guy, and you know what he's going through, and he still puts out one of the best performances he ever did. So, but yeah, I mean, it's all subjective when it comes to that. How you know, Fourth? Hey, don't come in here and cause no problems, man. You know what I mean. All right, hey, 4K saying, hey, Joke Exotic. What did even? What? Okay, am I seeing? What even ever do Black Adam? All right, so am I reading that wrong, Joe? What did even ever do to Black Adam? Okay, can you put that in a context I don't know what you're asking me. I want to answer your question, but I see I think I might be missing something there. So, all right. Well, comics wise, Shazam did outsell Superman under its original comic company. Yeah, it did. Fostered enough fairness, but then it went away for 30, 40 years, and then came back in 73, and then it's had no consistency since Crisis. I mean, it's been all over the place. And then you have the new 52 version of it. But even under all those incarnations, the general public it was never one of those things like, wow, that guy, holy cow, And like I said, and when you have a character like that, you can do things with them, but and if you want them to succeed, you have to have the alpha characters in the picture. The rising tide lifts all ships. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Green Lantern. That is the rising tide. Everybody else is the ships. You just gotta strategize it right, I don't think it matters what character they choose to focus on film, but what matters is how the trailer grabs you. Some films demand they be seen. MLS, BBS, Suicide Squad left felt monumental. But here's the thing, though. I wish that were true, but Superman, Batman, those are epic, iconic characters that in those trailers are great. Okay, do you bleed or you will? Of course. But it had the big advantage of being Batman and Superman. And then by the time Suicide Squad came along, you had a popular character in Harley Quinn that was done in a way that just stuck with people. But you also had those previous movies. By the time you got to Suicide Squad, you thought, little way we know, we were on a ride. And that momentum just carried. Remember, Man of Steel, 678 million. BVS made 200 more million, and then Suicide Squad, a movie with not a lot of people in it that people knew, other than Harley Quinn, made 678 million itself. So you had these movies, and that's what I mean. You had a pool of movies that propelled you into the next step. Right now, I do think it matters what character they put out because of the credibility. Not only the credibility of DC films, but the fact that, like I said, people associate this level of superhero. If you're going to say that these characters exist in the same universe, especially these B and C characters, you need to attach them to those IPs. It's different when you put the Batman because people know who Batman is historically. So if it were the Blue Beetle is going to bomb. If it were the Wonder Twins, you might as well fire those people now and get that direct-to-video ready. So I slightly disagree. I do think it is a lot of it is the character. A lot of it, especially when it comes to DC's universe, because the pillars of those universes are iconic characters that everybody knows. So you can't put one in there that nobody knows. It's just kind of the other thing. Comic Contra, yeah. Well, and like I said, I will 100% that the trailers for Black Adam were not good. I don't think the promotion for Black Adam these first 6 or 7 months of it were good. It didn't pick up till later on. By that time, it was too late, But once again, if I've seen bad trailers for characters that people know, and those movies do fine. A lot of it is an investment on IP. The John Wick trailer for the second one wasn't that great. But that movie did bonkers. Why? Because John Wick had established a cult following in the first one. The trailer for John Wick could have just been walking out of the shadows loading a gun, and then they cut. People were still going to go see John Wick because based on what they saw in the time that they had previously. It's just, they know who John Wick is now. All right, happy Thanksgiving to you. Do you guys celebrate Thanksgiving in Australia, Anthony? Let me know. All right. After a while, James Gunn should get off of Twitter and make himself inaccessible to fans. I don't think he's ever going to do that. We should all wait in the dark and anticipate what happens instead of thinking we have direct access to him. I think you can have the best of both worlds. Forth. I think that he can lead us along because I think that the person running the show should engage us often, and I think we should have some access to him. It's up to him how he should limit the flow, though. I don't think we should be in the dark, though, because we should know the details. We don't need to be led along every detail, but there should be enough light on the projects on a regular basis to keep us going, to keep us ready, to keep us, excited about it. Because it's been the exact opposite with DC films now, is we've had these big, huge gaps in time and movie and charisma. And right now, you need to be. I agree, there may come a time where he can pull back once he has actually physically developed a perception of DC films, but it's going to be about 3 years from now. Yeah, that's the soonest, But hey, it is all wait and see, no matter how much information gives us. So, integrity. So, William, a Dio fan. How do I describe twice? I am a Dio fan. I actually became, and in all fairness, in full disclosure, first time I ever heard Ronnie Dio was on Black Sabbath. I, as a kid, didn't know he had a solo career. I mean, because remember, we didn't have all this in Wikipedia and all this other shit. We had radio, we had pirate radio, we had all these radios, and I knew who Ozzy Osbourne was as a solo artist before, because I was born in '74. They were by the time I could read and stuff like that and understood music, they had already broken up, and that was the first album that he was on. And to me, Ronnie James Dio was Black Sabbath. And now that I've heard enough Black Sabbath throughout my life, I think Ronnie James Dio was the better lead singer, just like I think Sammy Hagar is the better Van Halen singer. Fight me, I don't care. But no, I am a Dio fan. Ronnie James, and man, him dying, that's another one that cancer got. That's another one. 66 years old. He'd still be touring today if he were alive. I think Freddie Mercury would still be. They'd probably be touring together. And it's just these lives get cut short, and it sucks because they had more to give. So, okay. Let's see. Let me go back. Okay, what did even ever do to Black? Oh, ha! I'm sorry. I got it. I get into the mode where I'm reading these things and I'm doing it seriously. Sometimes a joke is slipped in there, and I missed that one. Very good joke aside. I wish I had a laugh track so I could do the clapping for you, but I'm not that advanced yet. So that was hilarious. All right, hey RJ, I'm doing okay. I'm about to roll into this Thanksgiving holiday. I am good on all fronts. I am happy with all my franchises right now. I'm happy with. I'm sort of happy with Marvel. I watched the Guardians of the Galaxy thing. I think that's out. I'll probably watch that tomorrow at the store. Marvel stuff for me right now, I'm taking it case by case by case. I can't wait for Secret Invasion. All the other stuff, I'm going to see how I feel about that once it comes, once Secret Invasion comes out, and I can kind of see things come together. But with DC right now, I'm basically kicking back like this. It's just waiting for James Gunn to tell me what's next, and that's it. I'm in a very good spot. I'm happy to not know things. I've never been happy to not know things, and that's why when I see people kind of drawing conclusions to what things might mean and who's not liking who and who may be feeling out in the cold and what things mean, I just like I want to tell people embrace ignorance right now. This is a time for you to be dumb because you don't know anything. We don't know anything. We don't know the conversations. Like I said before at the beginning of the stream, we don't know any of these conversations that have been had. We didn't know about the cameo. I mean, there's so much stuff that if we look back on it, we didn't know what was going on behind the scenes before it happened. We didn't know that Peter Gunn and James Safran were going to be named DC heads, even though they probably knew weeks and weeks and weeks in advance. Probably after the whole Lynn situation fell apart. And that situation probably fell apart a lot further back than we knew that fell apart. So, like I was saying to someone else today, I think I was watching Drivers. I remember back before the internet how pro wrestling felt to me. Yeah, we knew it was, we were starting to grow of age and we knew that, hey, it was probably not real, but at the same time, we didn't know what was going to happen next. And when there was something about being wowed, something about going into that unknown that we've kind of speculated the fun out of things. So I'm in a good space right now to where I can finally sit back and, if these guys continue to hold these things so close to the vest, that I have a sense of wonderment that I didn't have a few months ago, especially about the DC product. Plans for Thanksgiving, I am going to work on the store, get a lot of our signage done. We did the Thanksgiving thing with my parents tonight because my dad was a career Air Force guy and my mother was a 30-year flight attendant. We got used, and plus me being deployed, we got used to not celebrating Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving. So this year, same thing. We all have mixed up schedules. So we did the whole Thanksgiving and turkey thing tonight, just like we do Christmas. And then tomorrow, I'm going to be spending pretty much all day long just getting the store ready, getting the online store ready, watching football on the big screen, watching the rest of Andor, watching some Star Trek Prodigy, believe it or not, because apparently that got a lot better than I thought it ever could. Watching a couple of indie horror movies because I'll probably be at the store from literally 11 a.m. tomorrow till 1 a.m. Friday morning, just getting everything ready and doing stuff like that. So those are my plans for Thanksgiving. What are yours, RJ? All right, I'm saying if Black Adam felt like an epic, totally serious, gritty, consequential, and had a great soundtrack. And and I understand what you're saying. But in order for us to get to that point where all of that affects us worth, we have to actually give a shit about the movie even existing. And that was their biggest hurdle, is you have to be able to build a bridge to all of this. Everything that you typed out, you have to have a bridge to this. And you could have the greatest movie in the world. I hate to say this, but being a good movie isn't enough. There's a graveyard of really, really good movies and great movies that didn't make shit because the promotion was bad or nobody cared about things or bad press, all kinds of things can lead. There's a movie with Ben Affleck in it called The Accountant. Didn't make a lot of money. Great movie, but it didn't have that push. Blade Runner 2049. They did a horrible campaign leading up to that movie by not giving you a lot to go on what the movie was about. They expected Blade Runner to be the name to be enough, even though they didn't realize the first one was obscured. It was a bomb. You could have all this that you wrote down going for you. If that could have all been there, and it may have helped word of mouth for a little bit, but not as much as a movie that has an established IP and a company that has an established track record. People brought up Deadpool the other day, and even though Deadpool was a Fox movie, even Fox's X-Men type movies and mutant movies had a good enough track record so that was relevant. And then you had the MCU alongside of that doing what they were doing for 8 or 9 years into it. So you had two levels of credibility, whereas DC Films just didn't have that credibility. The margin for error was zero. And it could have had all of that in it. Black Adam being totally serious doesn't matter if you don't know who Black Adam is enough to spend your money on it. It's,
And that when we go through that with promotion all the time. When we're promoting these movies, that's why we get all this stuff to promote this movie. That's why we do all the things that we do. And the companies and the intermediates get with us on this thing because they know it doesn't matter how great their movie is sometimes. That's probably 25% of your chances for success. People have to care about your movie going in. Otherwise, it's a coin toss. And you don't want to leave $200 million movies up to a coin toss. So I agree and I disagree a little bit there. Anthony Grigsby, not here, but I can vicariously see you guys also know Thanksgiving. All right. All right, says Hogground. I normally would agree, but this fandom is different than Marvel. I want the light. I want enough light. I want enough light. I don't want all the light. I think there's a middle ground that he can give us enough to keep us going and keep us exciting. Put enough blood in the water so that I can track that sea lion. I don't need the whole sea lion, right now. I'm okay with him. Anything that the previous regime did, that's going to be an improvement on that because they didn't tell us shit. They didn't do shit. They didn't tell us shit. So, but these guys, they're actively doing things. So that right there is enough. But he's actually, I think once he begins engaging with, starts dropping cryptic things and starts dropping covers and stuff like that, and you start to see the puzzle, then I think we're going to, momentum is going to pick up. I don't want all the light. I want some. But at the same time, I also want to be wild. I want to be surprised. I want to be, I want to get excited again. I don't want these films and these projects to be torn apart analytically, can't talk, before they get a chance to take place. I've seen so many DC films that literally they're like a plane trying to get off the runway, and they got every critic and everyone in the world picking parts off that plane before it can even get in the air. We don't want to have that. Enough light is good, all right? And I think that it's important for James Gunn to craft it in a way that he doesn't give up the goose, but he lets us know that there's a goose there. Compromise, Okay, that's William squeaking in the chair. I thought I was like, sorry, I should stop moving, but I have a lot more energy tonight than I usually do this time of morning. Usually I'm at the tail end of things, but I am just the fact that I know that I'm just going to be doing nothing but immersing myself in sci-fi and geekdom later on today. I think that's where I'm at. All right, did you see Heaven and Hell live? Sabbath and Dio toured. No, that's a regret. That is a regret. I just, at that time of my career, I just didn't, and those tickets were super expensive. I just didn't have any money at that time. I wanted to go, and I regret that, knowing that 3 years later, Dio would be dead. And, seeing the original Black Sabbath wasn't the key for me either. If I could have gone to see that, I would have been seeing Dio, because Dio to me was a Black Sabbath. Just like when I saw Van Halen. I am grateful that I got to see Van Halen before Eddie Van Halen passed away. Because to me, Sammy Hagar's version of Van Halen is a definitive Van Halen. To me, it's 85 to 96, nothing before, nothing after. God damn it. So that's just my opinion. But no, I did not get to see that tour live. It's a regret. It's a regret because here I am thinking I'll get another shot at it, and I never did. He got sick not too soon afterwards, or not too long afterwards, and he was gone. He was gone quick too. It sucked. Stomach cancer, by the way, is one of the most aggressive cancers. Once you get it, it's wow. Especially one of the stages he found out he had it. And I haven't watched this documentary yet about him. I'm hoping it doesn't tear my heart out. Because like I said, when I watch documentaries of people that are gone, especially if they follow up all the way to the point where they're going, I don't know if I'll be able to finish it. Fourth, what other franchises besides DC and Marvel are you looking forward to? I think we should spend our time. Oh, yes, Lord, yes. I am looking forward to some of the Star Wars stuff coming out. I'll take it case by case. I'm looking forward to Blade Runner 2099, which is a series that Amazon is doing. Just knowing that is on its way just gives me hope for humanity. Star Trek, wow. There's just I never thought back in 2004 when old Trek fan tried to choke the life out of Star Trek that I would be in a spot where I have kick-ass shows like Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Prodigy, which I'm going to give a chance. Lower Decks, but there is a cornucopia, there is an a la carte of Star Trek that I get to jump into that I cannot wait. There's some horror stuff coming out. They're going to be remaking The Thing, not remaking, but doing a Blumhouse version of The Thing, which I am definitely looking forward to seeing, especially while John Carpenter's alive. There's just a lot of stuff coming out that I'm going to focus on, and I'm going to try to do. That's what I've been trying to do lately. Since I started, is we talk about a lot of things. I know you guys, not everybody's into wrestling, but I mean, I have an unhealthy addiction to wrestling. So you see me bring that stuff up. There's all kinds of stuff out there that are out there, that I want to see, horror and science fiction wise. But as far as those franchise goes, a little bit more Star Wars. I hope Star Wars goes in a direction that brings me further from this universe that we're currently in. But Star Trek is doing it for me right now. Strange New World season 2, Picard season 3, Discovery season 5. I'm in it. I know we've never had it this good as Star Trek fans. The only thing that's not as good is we get these 10, 12, 13 episode seasons instead of 26. But if they continue to string the series where you have not too long to wait after each, then I'm okay. And then, like I said, just science fiction in general, I'm looking forward to. So there's a lot. I got a list of stuff that we're going to be promoting this year that doesn't have anything to do with DC or Marvel. That is going to, I think, is going to entertain some people, and we're gonna focus on some of that stuff as we get closer to it. Oh, the Alien series. That Fox is working on, Ridley Scott is working on with that. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. All right, Seth Alcon. Hey William, did you like Lower Decks? Did you hear it was going to be renewed? Oh yeah, I knew it was going to be renewed. I have tried Lower Decks. I just hasn't been for me. I don't hate it, but I just don't. It's not the level of Star Trek that I enjoy. But I love the fact that it's out there for other people. Other people. I know a lot of people who really enjoy Lower Decks, and so I'm not going to piss on their fire. It just wasn't for me. But a lot of times I'll watch some of these shows and I'll come back to them, and they mean a little bit more to me than they did when I gave them their initial try. So Lower Decks is not off the table. I'm glad it got renewed. I want all Star Trek shows to get renewed, even if it's Trek that I'm not down with. I want if there's Trek out there that you like, I want it to be renewed, because I see Trek as a big giant table that for so many years a lot of people tried to pull the chair out from people and not make them welcome. I want more chairs. I want a bigger table. And eventually, even if you came into Trek with something I don't necessarily like, if you stay a Trek fan long enough, and I stay one for the rest of my life, eventually we're going to meet at the middle of that table, all right? And we're all going to give each other's level of Star Trek, or each other's side of Star Trek, a chance enough to where I can see you from across that table and you're a fellow Star Trek fan. I want more Star Trek fans. We went through a 12-year period to where, like I said, old Trek fans chased every prospective fan away. And now we're in a new era where we're inviting, a new generation in. So if it's a cartoon that brought you into Trek, you know how I feel about animation, but welcome to Trek. So Lower Decks, I'm glad it got renewed. And like I said, I'll come around. I'll come around to Trek. All right, sorry, I wholeheartedly respectfully disagree. Black Adam could have been a hit if it didn't look like a generic rock picture presentation value. People didn't know Blade metrics values matter. No, like I said, brand. I disagree, man. I understand what you're coming from, but brand is a lot. When it's a superhero film, brand loyalty, brand history is your engine and your fuel. And Black Adam had neither. All right. And generic rock pictures still make a lot of money because he's usually attached to a decent brand. And him being attached to a decent brand is why he's been able to do these other movies. But you look at the movies that The Rock is in, even though he's top billing, Fast and the Furious was an established brand before he came in there. So it's like, especially with comic book movies, because it's not just established brand, it's the expectation. If I expect Superman and you give me Black Adam, I'm not giving you my money. All right? I mean, I will because I'm a nerd. But the general public, the name Dwayne Johnson might get you to look at things, but it's not going to get you to go to things. And like I said, how many movies that have met all of these things that you're saying, have had great presentation, had great CGI effects, had all the presentation values that you could ever want to, and they still bomb because nobody could connect with the history of the IP. All right, there's, like I said, Hollywood is littered with movies that have done everything that you're saying to do, but if the customer doesn't feel a connection to the IP, it's going to be a great movie that they don't see. I mean, it just happens over and over again, and it happens more times than not. It's really hard to make a good movie, you know. And like I said, it being a generic Rock picture wasn't, you know, I don't think that was a problem. I don't think The Rock was the problem at all. The problem is you know, there's how many Marvel movies have been some generic Marvel movies at this point at 30 movies into the game. I mean, was Captain Marvel something earth shattering that I needed to leave my house for? No, but it was where it was placed. The credibility of the company putting it out and the franchise putting it out meant everything to that movie. And that's something that the Black Adam didn't have. It didn't have proper placement. It didn't have brand name loyalty or brand name recognition. And it didn't have brand credibility with the overall franchise. That's a lot to fight against. That is a lot. That's just those three things I gave you are the three things that are critical to you making any money. And they didn't have those things against going for them. And they made 370, 375 or whatever they'll wrap up with. So sorry, Fourth, I disagree with you there. Sorry, man. Most of the movies in our history were projects we never asked for. Yeah, but here's the thing, though. You can't compare superhero movies to that. Because once again, there's an expectation there with these movies. And that there be, you know, something connected to them, around them, if they're going to be a minor IP. Like I said, we're not talking about a solo Superman movie or a solo Batman movie. We're talking about a solo movie that's not connected to anything, and a company that hasn't put out anything heavy hitting in years, and we're expecting that movie to come out of nowhere with none of that primer and do great. Before we even get to the quality of the movie, you had already lost 3 or 4 battles because there's shitty movies that make a lot of money because they're marketed better. Right? There's crappy movies. There's tons of crappy movies, and I've seen them, and I've wasted hours of my life seeing these movies, and they do bonkers because of the way they were presented before you even saw the movie. If your presentation game prior to the movie, it's with your company, a lot of it's with their company. People are going to trust Jason Blum and Blumhouse. Why? Because they have a history of giving you those type of scares. But there's other people who make some movies sometimes and they don't do as well because they don't have that history. It's like I said, most of the movies in our history are projects we never asked for. We don't have to ask for it, but once it's out there, you need to give it. It needs to have a chance to succeed. I'm not asking for a Blue Beetle movie. I think that's an absolutely absurd idea given DC's history. However, if we have a Superman movie that's been out there, or we have a Batman movie, not the Batman, the Batman that's in our universe movie. And by the time, or we at least have those type of things announced by the time Blue Beetle comes out, Blue Beetle has a better shot. Blue Beetle on its own has no shot, whether anybody asks for it or not. You can tell me, people are going to love Blue Beetle because they love Iron Man. No, they're going to see it as a blue knockoff of Iron Man. You know, and it might hit with us people of color a little bit more. But once again, what history before Black Panther came out, there was a history of Marvel movies leading up to that. What history do we have leading up to the movies that you're saying should be successful? That matters. The biggest commercial you have for the movie coming out is the movies that you've done. And when you look back at DC the last 5 years, the bank is empty. The bank account is got dust in it. All right. $2 true back from Sir Solid Khan. Yeah, you're right about the light. I don't want to be sometimes, but I just want enough. I just want enough to get me giddy, to get me, I see the presents down at the under the tree when I'm a kid, but you can't open them yet until Christmas Day. But you're excited because you're looking at those boxes and you're like, damn, that looks like what I've been asking for all year long. That's it. I feel like a kid now, and I really long to feel like that. So, all right, Integrity, those shows are awesome. I saw Heaven and Hell live. And it's a top 3 concert for me. Check out Heaven and Hell live in Radio City Hall. That DVD sometimes is fantastic. I think I have that. I think I have that at the center, at the store. I got to go look. I do a group watch of that one. I think Blade Runner could do well on television if they change or add to the lore. It can't just be replicants, and it needs to be action based. But mark my words, the future of cyberpunk is 2077. Oh boy, Forrest, you're testing me lately, man. I don't know if Blade Runner needs action. Blade Runner has never needed action. If they do add action, I'm okay with it. I'm open to a different, I'm open to a whole new world that's, that has more than replicants. I mean, I do need the replicants to be the heart of the story, but there are other elements. I think they have an opportunity here with more time and more money to focus on a lot of things from that might exist in that world that we've always been guessing about, speculating about what could be around. I mean, both movies have focused on replicants, but I think replicants could also play a different role in the society. It all depends, but future of cyberpunk is 2077. What am I going to do with you? All right, let's see. I think the oppressive and dark vision of Blade Runner isn't a colorful enough world to be further explored. I don't need to. I don't necessarily need it revamped. I need it expanded upon. Don't revamp anything, but just go further. What made 2049 such a great film for me is the fact that it expanded upon the small square of the city that the original Blade Runner took. Blade Runner 2049 took you to places that you'd never seen before. It expanded the lore. Yeah, it was in LA, but we went to San Diego. We went to Vegas. We expanded the lore about replicants and recreating and all this stuff. So I'm okay with it just progressing along what it has, the path that it's on, the logical plan. Even if we're going 50 years into the future because it's 2099. The same thing we did with the original and 2049. We still stayed upon a logical plan. I'm okay with that. I just wanted to expand a little bit more. I agree. I'll give it. I think I might have seen it, dude. I watched so much stuff today that I have to see a picture to remind myself to what I was saying. William, what would you do about multiple Batman situation, Maya? Like all X-Men Batmans are hurting for money and one DC cat. I don't know if that's the case. I think Keaton's doing okay. West is passed. Robert Pattinson's okay. I mean, Val Kilmer he's done acting, but he's made plenty of money, and he's made some residuals. George Clooney is doing just fine. They're not hard up to catch. As far as multiple Batmans goes, I never had an issue with multiple Batman myself. I don't want it to be too overdone, but at the same time, different Batman fit different situations. So if you're telling a different story, it depends on the story that Matt Reeves makes for the Batman doesn't necessarily fit the Batman that I want walking alongside Superman or Green Lantern. To me, that's why the comics, when Batman is written well, when they write him as a solitary figure in his own books, Detective Comics, Batman, etc., there's different writing style involved. All right, when they write him along Justice League or any other superhero, there's a different writing style involved. So, never had a problem with multiple Batman because I thought that there are always over the past 80 years been multiple stories to tell, and there's so many different types of stories that you can tell with Batman. You don't necessarily want to be shoehorned and chained to one particular type of one. Matt Reeves is going to tell stories that fits the Batman in his world, and then other people are going to do the more cosmic stuff that we need to have because Batman serves a lot of functions. All right, how you doing, Chappie? Happy Thanksgiving. Joe Quixotic, Blade Runner is about ethical questions about new technology. It just has action. It's not based on it. Yeah, it's a cerebral movie. And like I said, Blade Runner 2049, to me, it hovers of being my favorite movie. For years, it was Blade Runner. But I now view them as one movie, so I don't cheat on myself. The comic nerds want comic book accuracy, but a film needs to connect with the mainstream audiences to be a hit. How you balance pleasing both audience nerds, normie? Well, okay, I get this question asked all the time, so my answer is this. You start with the structure of the core material. So you take the things that make that character work. Batman, the things that are historically happening to him, even if you don't show those elements all the time, the things that make Batman work, the psychosis that I think Batman carries with him, to where the famous saying is Bruce Wayne is a mask that the Batman wears. He's not well in the head. And I think you take those aspects of it and you add in certain storylines and certain elements, because you don't have to depict them 100% accurately like they're in the book, but those characters, even on paper, did bring out certain elements of that writer and that character that you can use going forward. So I always say you don't need to, and you probably should never do an exact interpretation from comic to film, but you should take the things that make that character recognizable on all levels. All right, and there are certain things about Batman that are recognizable on all levels, that connect. His demeanor is something that's going to be recognized on all levels. The lore, the folklore about the Dark Knight is something that can be spread on all levels. So you take the things that are in the comic book and you make them not grounded or much relatable, but you make them into the type of excitement that I read as a comic fan, but you also have to envision how a person is going to be sitting in a seat thinking like that. And you engineer them. You start with that core, but you engineer your way away from that to the audience that's going to be seeing it in the motion picture. And all the while still using elements from the source. That's how I do it. That may have sounded complicated, but when we're at the store one day, I'll give you an example of how I laid this out to a customer. And I brought out this stack of random Batman comics, and I took aspects from all of them, and I related those aspects to what more normal moviegoers would takes for them. And you just do a good job of connecting those dots and building that bridge. And ultimately, you have a composite that will serve both the normies and the comic book geek. For me, the Batman did that. The Batman, reading Batman Year One and Batman Year Two, I felt myself drawn into the Batman. I felt the way they treated Gotham, the way they treated the police officers, and that's how you do it. Now, a normal person can walk up and watch the Batman and not ever have picked up a comic, but a person who's picked up a comic, especially the ones I just illustrated, will be able to connect directly, and that's that middle ground you have to be able to straddle. All right, Joker Sonic, yeah, Blade Runner is a 2-time loser. Yeah, it's a 2-time loser, but you know what? And here's the thing about when people look at the box office and they think that that's solely what will make a next step for anything possible. Blade Runner lost money twice, but it is regarded as some of the greatest movies of all time, and the production companies see that. Box office is important, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of other. Blade Runner won 2 Academy Awards. All right, yeah, they were for technical stuff and cinematography, but Academy Awards. I don't think Roger Deakins, the guy who was nominated 14 times, thought that Academy Award was even worth less. And Warner Brothers, trust me, Warner Brothers was happy as hell. They pushed the hell out of those 2 nominations. They were happy. But they also know that every now and then you put out a movie that doesn't necessarily connect right away, but will. And with all these different forms of platforms to make money on now, you can do physical media, you can do TV shows. You can still take that lore. They just got to, like I said, just because a movie does like that doesn't mean that there's not a draw or that there's not success to be had. You just got to package it right. I think Blade Runner being a TV series is going to be excellent because you get more time. And Amazon has the ability with their reputation to make, to put eyes on it, So, yeah, 2-time loser financially, but like I said, it lost money the first time around, but didn't stop, a sequel from being made. That sequel led directly to this TV show being made. So if you need an example of how the numbers don't always line up with decision making, there you go. And I think those decision makings are good that they made. All right, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Just send back Blake through the multi. Oh no. And Adam West timeline right first. So by the way, there's a clip. Adam West. They use Adam West for the Batman trailer. Google it. It's hilarious. So, all right, guys. Oh wow, shit. I did not mean to do this to 1:30. I meant to stop at 1. All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you guys for adding questions to our open mic. I wish you guys each and every one of you a happy Thanksgiving. We'll be on tomorrow night at some time to continue whatever's going on. Should be a very slow news day because it's damn holiday. But just like I always said, I said a couple of days ago, if you're having an awful day, going through an awful period, take inventory of everything around you and everyone around you. Start looking at yourself from there are people you mean something to, and there are things that are better for your being around them or being involved in them. Take a closer inventory of everything you have and everything you got, and when I do that, I'm amazed at what I got. We move so fast and building. It's like NASCAR. We were always working on a machine at a rapid pace. We never stop to actually appreciate the machine we built. And I think for me, that's what Thanksgiving is about. Just being thankful for the machine that I still have my hands on and everything else I got. So I hope everybody does that. And Lord willing, I will see you guys tomorrow night, roughly around this time, most likely from the store. And have a happy Turkey Day or whatever it is that you eat. Spam, doesn't matter.